Hi, I'm Brian, and today I want to talk to you about this album, which is Benefit by Jethro Tull. And it's the third album that the band released, and it came out in 1970 and did pretty well, nearly got into the top 10 in America, went to number three in the UK, which could have been a disappointment after the previous album, Stand Up, went to number one. But still, there's a sense for me that this album hasn't got the credit it deserves, it so rightly deserves. And I suppose it's coming after This Was and Stand Up. I love This Was. I think it's an incredible album. And Stand Up was a great next jump. And then Benefit might have been seen as treading water a little bit, but I don't know. It's 55 years old, for goodness sake. And that's younger than me. So I think it needs a reappraisal. Now, just from where I'm coming with Jethro Tull, the Tull were a band that I really liked sort of in my teens and into my early 20s. And I had nearly everything they'd recorded up to there. Probably my last album I went with was Under Wraps, and then I sort of let them go. And then they're one of these bands which I sort of let go and stayed letting them go, if that makes any sense. I haven't come back to it. I thought they were a bit arcane, a bit of the time. But, it's going to be very interesting to hear what I have to say, hopefully, about this album now. So there's the album cover, and this is a 1970 Australian original pressing. Well, how about that? And on the back cover, we have this here with the guy sort of almost doing like a puppet show type thing. That's kind of cool. And did the original UK albums ever come out with a sort of a pull apart back? I've never seen it, but for some reason it's sticking in my head. And it's, of course, on the Reprise label. If I can get this little tasty little sucker out. There it is, the Reprise label. And who have we got on the album? We've got Ian Anderson, who sings lead vocals and plays about everything under the sun. We've got Martin Barre, his second album, on lead guitar. Clive Bunker behind on the drums. And then we've got Glenn Cornick. And I think this is Glenn's last ever album with the Tull, but I could be completely wrong there. I've just got a feeling it goes that way. But a pretty formidable band. Now, Ian Anderson has called this a dark album, and it's true, there's not that much light on it. In fact, you probably have to go to the song Inside to get that light, that bit of light, and maybe even for Michael Collins, Jeffrey and me. Really great stuff here. But, the band has moved from the beautiful blues of This Was, and they've gone up to a bit of blues now. There's a lot of riffage going on, and that adds to the darkness. And maybe there was a sense that they were picking up the baton from a couple of bands, notably Cream, maybe Blind Faith, who I think they sort of were influenced by, and going in that heavy rock direction that they could. But, Rolling Stone, for example, in their three separate encyclopedias that I have, or record guides that I have, they give it a 3-star, a 3-star, and a 3.5-star. Maybe it's just a little bit more than that. Anyway, so 55 years old going on here, and I'm going to make the case that this album is a little bit better than Rolling Stone Record Guide seems to tell us, and I shall smite them down with furious anger. Anyway, let's see whether it does hold up after all this time, or whether it should be living in the past. Let's check it out. So side one kicks off with You There to Help Me, and immediately we're sort of plunged into this evocative atmosphere of the woods and the forests at twilight, and not much light coming in, direct light coming in through the understory of the trees. It's a beautiful moment, and it's really accentuated because of Ian Anderson's flute playing here, which is sweet and gorgeous as always. And that's that's counterpointed by Martin Barr's guitar. Now, if we're imagining a wah pedal, I reckon he's got the wah right up here to create that tone. And then we've got Ian Anderson's, or Ian Anderson's in the plural vocal, which is no, it's nothing like that. But what I'm trying to make the point is that double-tracked low vocal really reminds me, or anticipates, the opening of grunge many years down the line. It's sort of the same vocal style that Lane Staley from Alice in Chains would use. And what is not to like? And then the chorus just lifts off out of seemingly nowhere, it just beautifully builds up and goes. And I remember it so well, even though it's been so long since I've listening to it. I'm going back to the ones that I love, with whom I can be what I want to be. Just 1 week for the feeling to go, and with you there to help me, then it probably will. What a great song. A great way to start the album with flutes and reverse piano. I think I forgot to mention John Evan also makes an appearance on this album for the first time. But, as far as an opening track, can I hear you say, yeah, yeah? And then we go into Nothing to Say, which is kind of aptly titled because I've got very little to say about this one. And I know lots of people would love this song. It just doesn't work for me. I think it's a little bit stodgy. Although I could talk myself into loving it again. Nothing to say. Yeah, just it goes a little bit stodgy and repetitive for me. And that's the one thing also I'd like to point out. This is the first album I think that Ian Anderson produced by himself. And for me, the drums are a little bit muddy. The bass is not really just cutting through enough, and particularly the snare drum, as I was going to say before. The flutes and the guitars and the vocals are recorded really well, but maybe that's where all the love went. Anyway, as I said, it's a bit stodgy and a bit repetitive for me, but still, absolutely. This is a 3.5 star song, whereas for you, there, Help Me is 4.5, 5. Then, almost as an antidote for Nothing to Say, we go into the first single, which is called Inside. Now, I haven't heard this song for 20 or 30 years, and it just brought me back to this sense of tripping through a field of buttercups, if you like. Really wonderful pastoral sort of sound. I'm sitting on the corner and feeling glad. Got no money coming in, but I can't be sad. That was the best cup of coffee that I ever had, and I won't worry about a thing because we got it made here on the outside so far away. Great. Again, there's pastoral sort of romantic lyrics, and flute is everywhere on this song, but it's not overplayed at all. And I can imagine that they could have played this on MTV Unplugged. Did they ever? Did they ever do MTV Unplugged? Don't know. My research budget doesn't quite go that far. But having said that, if they did play MTV Unplugged, did they play Inside? Great song. And then we've got Sun, which comes out distorting right out of the gate. So, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of this song, but I really enjoy the delay on the vocal. It's almost like a gated delay on the vocal. And just when I thought we were going to get that this song was again going a bit like Nothing to Say and being a bit stodgy and a bit repetitive, we go into this slowed down section where I think it's the bass and the drums just cut out completely. And it's almost like a not Middle Eastern, excuse me, an Asian feel to it. And it's very quiet and it's tender. And it says, I only feel what touches me, and feel in touching I can see a better state to be in. Very nice. Could almost imagine breaking out the sitars at this point. It's kind of sad that they didn't, because there was an opportunity for that Asian mysticism to pop in here. Just going to take a quick break and a glass of water. Okay, I'm back. How exciting. Now, that took me about 20 seconds of me time, but it took virtually no seconds of you time. It's just, I don't know whether it's a phobia or something, or a dislike, but I'm not really into watching people drink or eat, I think, ugh. But that's just me. It's not you, baby. Maybe, baby, it's just me. Anyway, the next song is for Michael Collins, Jeffrey, and me. And right from the beginning, verses do not come much more beautiful or delicate than this one. There's a yearning intimacy in Ian's vocal here, and then the chorus erupts or lifts off from this, and it's got this sort of lift off being a really appropriate idea with the lyrics, the mothership is just a blip from your trip, made for two or made for two. And this idea of the mothership is really interesting because there's that sense of space travel. And remember, this is only a short time after the men went to the moon. And I looked at using my limited research budget, I found out that Michael Collins was the guy who had to stay on Apollo 11 while the others frolicked around. So no one small step for man for you, Michael. What a bummer that must have been. But did what's his name, Buzz Aldrin, did Neil Armstrong, did they ever get songs written for them by Jethro Tull and Ian Anderson? I don't think so. And then after that chorus, we're sort of up here and we're peaking, and then we have come back down to the walking with you. That's such a delicate, beautiful way to come back to the verse as well. And these acoustic guitars that play, I think they've got two acoustic guitars and they play off each other. Absolutely beautiful. providing a bed for this song to lie on. It's a wonderful end to the side, and one of my very favorite songs on the album. So let's now look into side two, and it opens with To Cry You a Song, which is a sort of take, a borrowing, if you will, of Blind Faith's Had to Cry Today. And I think I've heard somebody talk about that, that it was, they were very inspired by that song, and this is where it went. And as I say, it's not the greatest opening riff to a side of music, but I love the vocals when they come in, and I love the lines, flying so high, trying to remember how many cigarettes did I bring along. And after the vocals, we move into this improvisa- improvisational, that'll do, improvisational band work. And I love the bass going sort of hell for leather at this point, especially, and the twin guitars create this almost like a sonic sound festival. I dig the lead guitar work. It sounds like it's going through a Leslie speaker. Wow. But it works. It's very effective. So a really cool way to start off the second side. And then we move into A Time for Everything. And maybe it's a time to bring back the flute, because it seems like it's been absent for a while. And along with the piano, I quite like Martin's uh, lead guitar sort of solos, what are we saying, accompaniments to the vocals as we're going through this song. And the feedback in that second verse is absolutely sublime and to die for. It's one of those songs I remember vividly, but only when I've actually heard it again. So it's like the idea, everything comes back to me when it's on, and then it goes out the door. But still, I'd forget it rather quickly. I suppose the point's being made. I would forget it rather quickly. What am I trying to say? I'm saying that after I finish the review, I might forget this song. So what I'll have to do is play it a bit more. Then, unlike I think the original pressings, we come up with, where is it, Teacher, which was the B-side to Which Is Promised back in the day. And Teacher's a great song. It has a great riff. It's funky. It's driving. It's got all those things we like. Love the bass line throughout, and those drums are cooking up a funky rock stew here. Don't often use the word funky when I'm talking about Jethro Tull, but we've definitely got it here. The organ under the chorus is pretty sweet. And can't organ just be so effective at doing that, just laying it down, almost like a soundscape or an atmospheric device. I really find the organ to be so good at doing that. And then that chorus, hey man, what's the plan? What was that you said? Some tantric in hand, lying there in bed. I try to socialize, but I can't seem to find what I was looking like. There's something on my bell. Another great flute and guitar duel as we go out of this song, and it's absolutely nice. It's spot on. Two songs to go. I don't think I've missed any. And the next song up is called Play in Time, the second last song on this album. And I think there's sort of something to be said about maybe altering the track listing somewhat as we come up to this point. This is the sort of song that a lot of people would bury towards the end of a side too. You know, I don't want to use the word filler, but I will use the word filler. But it has lots to recommend itself, particularly those reverse guitars, or are they guitars where they manipulated the tape speed up a bit. And it's not, it's not the most imaginative song in the world, but it rocks. And and I kind of can't remember another Tull song that uses all these electronics and these goodies, studio goodies, to create such an experimental sound as well. But maybe it's been put as the second last song on the album as a sort of a palate cleaner, a mind cleaner, whatever that is, and prepare us for the final song, which is one of my favorites, an absolute classic as far as I'm concerned, a Tull classic, and that's Sossity, You're a Woman. I love the folksy, quirky nature of those vocals, really tender and emotional. And we have Give Me That Straight-Laced Promise and Not the Pathetic Lie. Tie me down with your ribbons and sulk when I ask you why. There's some beautiful acoustic guitar playing here. The tone of the guitars is absolutely superb. And then we have the organ, which reappears, and then to underplay everything, or undermine, underscore everything. Lots of unders there. And the flute comes back in with the chorus as well when they're doing Sossity, You're a Woman. One of my faves. Strangely enough, I'm tossing up whether it should be the last song on the album or should it have been moved somewhere, because it's maybe a bit of a downer to finish the album and doesn't have that big electric, almost not bombastic, but you know what I mean, heaviness to go out. Maybe switching Play in Time and Sossity Your Woman might have been a good thing. But having said that, Ian Anderson did say it's a dark album, and this is a pretty sort of dark, melancholy way to go out of the album. So lots of songs on here, Rolling Stone, lots of songs on here which I would rate 4 and 5-star songs. I think it's a really great album. But what do you think? I'd be really interested, because there's so many people in this world who know their Jethro Tull a lot better than than I do. And I'm not a fanatic by any stretch of the imagination, but there are lots of people. So what do you think of this album? Is it just a little blip on the radar before Aqualung comes around? Or is it just a nice continuation of that build up towards Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, Passion Play, etc.? I'd be really interested to see what people think about this one. Anyway, I've had a lot of pleasure going back and visiting this album, and I've only gone back to visit it because one of my friends bought it for me, or acquired a copy for my recent birthday, and I'll be doing a video on that fairly soon. Not on my birthday, just what I was lucky enough to be gifted for my birthday. But I think this is a really cool album, so I hope you dig it as well. It's given me a lot of pleasure to listen to, as I just said, and remember that if music of any size, shape, sound, style, or Sossity, and what does Sossity mean? Is it just a pun on society? Somebody please tell me. Or Sossity gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? Um, Thanks for coming and watching this video. There are some other ones right over there, and I've been doing a lot of reviews, and there might be something which tickles your fancy or gets you interested in it. So please do that. And if you feel like doing that, and until next time, I hope you're doing really well, staying cool, and bye now.